whoa. Spring is in the air. Vernal equinox. Or the spring. I'm not even sure if that's the right one. I know you're in a good mood. I'm in a good mood. Sunny. Beautiful outside. Oh, welcome to EFF WITH ME number 2. Hope you guys are stoked like me. The show today is fucking off the chain. We got Chaka, Bannon, Deathwish, Converge, Blood from the Soul. Goodness God. Umber Vitae, Wear Your Wounds. Jacob and I sit, we talk about art. We talk about innocence, chaos, mastery. And I think something that I need to start doing, which is really being a good project manager of your work. He showed me some of his books where he kind of, has cumulative work built up, and we even get to see one of those dope books. Also, just quickly to share, you guys probably know this about Jake, or many of you do. Jake actually did the artwork for the Burned Do or Die 12-inch, the only LP that we have. Just shouts to him on that. Did an incredible job. And I mean, booklet, the record sleeve, the vinyl color choices, all of it. Just an awful job. Thank you, Jake, for that. Next, we meet up with Sarah Ellen. Sarah Ellen's a wellness coach, and you always hear about health and wellness, right? Does that make any sense? I don't know. But I didn't. I knew the health part, not the wellness part. But after chatting with Sarah Ellen for a while, she's just giving me some new insights around kind of what wellness is, and really kind of how we all do it, but how we can kind of do it with more intent. And that's fucking an exciting discussion to have. Chat with her. Oh man, that was fun. Finally, I hooked up with my man Creature from Rebelmatic. Tongue twisters out here. Creature's been doing the impossible, and not only did he do it twice, he did it 13 or 14 times. So that impossible is putting on live shows in New York. He's been doing them outside, right? Which I guess is one way to kind of start it get it going. But then think about it. Goodness, 15, I believe he said, or so, more outside shows. That's 15 times that you could have come to see live music in New York. So shouts to him for about that, around that. We're gonna talk a bit about, the gang. Just kidding. We talk a bit about Rebelmatic and their new record. We also talk about kind of getting shit done. I mean, and that part of connecting with yourself during this kind of quarantine piece. I know that I've been in the best mood for me when I felt like I was connected to something, a project, getting something done, working on something, right? Talk about getting stuff done. Jake and I talk about getting stuff done. Sarah Ellen and I talk about getting stuff done. So it's really kind of a thread that weaves itself throughout this whole episode. Hope you like it. EFF WITH ME show number 2 on its way. Meet. Jake Bannon.
Wow. All right, so I was late. And Bannon, I knew he was going to leave, but he came back.
I came back. I'm here. I made it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to us
me,
Jacob
Bannon of Converge, Deathwish, Umber Vitae, Wear Your Wounds, Blood from the Soul, all that stuff. I'm making stuff.
Say again?
I guess I just make stuff. That's I make stuff. I promote stuff. I celebrate art and music.
Bam! All right.
Bam.
So I got some questions for you. They're fun.
All right, let's have fun.
They're broad and they just kind of lead into shit that we care about. And in my opinion, I hope you'll agree. I think you will.
Cool.
What is innocence?
Innocence is being free of outside influence that deters you from whatever chosen path you have. I think that's what innocence is. Innocence is something that's not corrupted by the small intricacies of life that could otherwise derail your vision. Yep, 100%. That's what I feel innocence is. Some people would see innocence as a sort of a naivety, or even as a negative of some kind, and I simply don't. I think it's just more of a purity of vision.
What is loss of innocence?
Oh, that can be a whole lot of things. I think in the most extreme case, it would be an experience which derails that pure vision of something that somebody has, and starts influencing them to simply not be the person they want to be, or at the very least pursue the things that they find to be worth pursuing. That's the loss of innocence. And, in a way, I've said this before, and I think that a lot of, aging people in the punk rock community will relate to this, is that that a lot of this is rooted in sort of youthful innocence, right? We find these things, we find these platforms such as punk rock and music and art when we're very young, when we're looking to be heard or seen, better or worse, for a variety of reasons. Everyone has their reasons that gravity put them where they are, in this sphere. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to just sort of you can age with it, and you can evolve with it without losing it. Just because it isn't necessarily the same as it was when you were 16 years old, 18 years old, doesn't mean it's not a valid form of expression. So a lot of people that are in the punk rock world found it when they were so young and so fresh, and, as you said, innocent. That innocence, I don't necessarily think goes away. I just think it can evolve into different things over time. Some people let it go totally, but at least myself, I don't. And I know a lot of people that aren't just rooted in punk rock and music, but just in other sort of alternative creative aspects of life, whether it be, carpenters, independent business owners, in a variety of ways that still carry that sort of punk rock innocence and that fanaticism for the things that they love as they age and progress.
And, and that's one of the things that makes it really interesting about you, kind of Boston crew. There's
Sure.
So much fucking entrepreneurship out there. I know, you have like a crew of people, some of whom I know, some of whom I don't, mm-hmm. that, restaurants, studios, tattoo parlors, and this is. Share a bit about who some of those folks are, as detailed or general as you like, and help us to get some kind of inside understanding around whatever it is that kind of keeps them, as folks that are adulting, right? Mm-hmm. But also maintaining that spirit of innocence, that kind of hardcore and punk. Talk about.
Well, one of the things that I find to be a commonality between New York. All right, so I'm using a broad brush to paint New York, because New York is a very big, vibrant place. But I guess in terms of the music world that we're rooted in, right? Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, Boston hardcore and New York hardcore were essentially everything, right? And the people and the characters which gave themselves to it gave everything that they have within themselves to it fully. And it wasn't a fad. Like, sure, there's a fad and phase, and there's people that will go in and out, but there's so many characters, whether you find them to be agreeable or likable or dislikable or whatever, like but they're true characters.
Absolutely.
They're
true to themselves.
Yes. And, a lot of us, may become sort of parodies of ourselves over time because of that, and you have to have a good sense of humor about yourself and about life in general to just be and exist and put things out into the world. But I think a lot of people in New England and in the tri-state area, they just don't give a fuck, and they gave themselves to it because that's all they had. And that was everything that they had. And, if you have an escape hatch in your life and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this for X amount of time. And then if it doesn't work out for me in this predetermined time and I don't reach the goals that I've set for myself, then I'm going to abandon this dream.
So do you think it's kind of like there's a level of commitment, so it's almost like a burn the ships kind of mentality?
I think that there's just a lot of people that just had no other options. It's either like you do this or you're going to pump gas or be a roofer.
Right. Exactly.
Like, and that's not to say that there trades aren't noble professions or anything like that. It just means that like you would just do menial work.
You might enjoy doing something else more.
You not even enjoy it as much as just you would compartmentalize life. How many people do you know, maybe not in your daily sort of sphere, but just know on the periphery, that have a relationship with work, which it is in fact work. It's what they do for X amount of time of the day. There's no passion for it. There's no love for it. There's just sort of there may be a general interest, but they just do it because they were either educated to do it and sort of groomed to do it, or they, for whatever reason, that's just kind of like the path that they landed on, but there isn't really a passion for it. And the difference between this world and that world is that we don't give up and we just evolve and do what we do. You from being, a graffiti guy to being an artist, to being a punk and hardcore musician, to being an electronic musician, those are all passions and those are all passionate things. And that's the key difference. So I think that a lot of people from our area, especially, we're cut from a little bit of a tougher cloth and we give ourselves to it fully. And so you have a lot of entrepreneurship. You have a lot of people that, just went for it and just said, hey, I'm going to make this happen. Just because there's, 200 record labels out in the world, why can't there be, or 200,000? Why can't there be 200,001? Why can't there be 500,001 bands or 1 million bands in one?
Absolutely.
It's just as valid. You got to give yourself to it. And I think that there's just, when there's that kind of purity and that emotion, you get something special out of it. Maybe not all the time, but over time it builds a community.
You're willing to try. You're willing to try to have. You'll roll the dice to have enough attempts where you will get something that pops off, right?
Yeah, and it's like
it doesn't work.
And I guess it's about rolling the dice too, right? Like, there's part of it that is rolling the dice is an intricate part of it. It's not just like a bunch of attempts to just see what is going to be the flashpoint for you. It's the process. You have to love the process because there's varying degrees of what you call success. Yeah.
Be all in.
Some days it pays your bills. Some days it doesn't. Some days it makes you happy. Some days it doesn't, but you give it to yourself and it's a whole part of your individual.
Right. Wow. That's interesting. You talked about threads earlier, and one of the pieces that kind of interests me about you, and I'm sure everyone else, is this kind of weaving of musicality, visual arts, record label ownership. How do you make the fabric? How does that feel to be that person with expertise in visual arts, an incredible musician, the record label with all that comes in that? Like, what does that feel like? How does that all come to be? Well,
I don't really know what it feels like because I'm not that self-reflective, so I don't. So like,
that's the answer.
Yeah, it in some ways it is, in the sense that I'm never fully content, but I'm also always content. I'm comfortable with the lane that I'm in, but I also know that I have enough experience and have a respect for the things that I am a fan of. Or I even, in your case, as an example with Burn, I'm a fan of, and I know the ins and outs of what the public perception of it is as a fan. So when I come to somebody like yourself and Gavin, and I truly understand it from a visual standpoint and from a musical standpoint as
Great
a fan.
Great job on Layout Do or Die. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. But you have to do that. Like, you can't just be if you come into it without knowing it from all angles, you know, you'll just sort of make a decent version of something, but it won't help something ascend to the next level it should be in terms of creative project, whether it be a record, a collaborative piece of art, or whatever. You really have to understand what you're bringing to the table. And also you have to know your shortcomings too. You need to know what you're good at. You know, I think that we all are, like, you know, like you and I aren't we're far from, you know, classical trained singers in the sense that of how we approach music.
Right.
But what we do with the tools that we have, you know, it's special to us and for us and for the people that appreciate it. So like, it's about understanding that and not trying to shape things to be something that they're not, you know. And like, that's kind of like from a record label standpoint and from an art direction standpoint, that's one of the most challenging things for me, because I have to approach all of these people that I work with and talk about their art, which is their pride and joy. It's their baby, you know? So like, I have to be constructively critical in ways which can maybe be uncomfortable, but there needs to be a level of trust so people understand that you're all working for the same.
You understand their vision, and you're there to help, you know, take it to the next level.
Yes, and even show you things that you might not even know that are there. You know, and that's for better or worse.
Vision.
It's vision. Right? It's vision, because you know what? Like, with all of this stuff, with any project, it's like, especially with music, there's so many layers of what it is. You know, there's the prose, there's the visuals, there's the art, there's the sonic power of the music, there's the pacing of an album, there's the pacing of an EP, there's a story that you want to tell, there's a story that you tried to tell that you don't, and you might tell another story. Who knows? But like, point being, sub-stories, yes. And so it's about unpacking all of that and just trying to make it the best version of what it could be. And that's the most fun and challenging thing for me as a guy who works in the music world that deals with all those facets of stuff. It's a little bit more simple when it comes to just being a musician or an artist, in the sense that sometimes you're collaborating, but when you're working in your box, like you're working in your office there with all your stuff, you just do you, and it doesn't really matter, you know? And so like, if it's successful to you and it strikes that emotional chord in you, your music and your your creative output is successful. But you know, when you start introducing it to other audiences, or need to shape it in a certain way or present it in a certain way, there's a whole multitude of challenges that start to arise. So so when I'm just making art or music, it's just different. Like, I might love a riff to death, or love, you know, some sort of song that really connects with me, that doesn't connect with, you know, the greater audience out there. I don't care, you know, that I made that for myself, you know. And at the end of the day, when it comes to being a creative person as an individual, especially when I'm doing things that are, let's just call it, for lack of better terminology, solo related things, right? You know, projects that you might collaborate, but it's, you know, it's a different, it's coming from you.
Right.
That's just a different animal. It has a different unit of measure. You know, it's different than a band environment, or some sort of collaborative environment that has a whole lot of moving parts. But in terms of how it relates to here, you know, I don't know, man. There's just a lot of people that just went for it and wouldn't give up, you know, and just do what they do. It was interesting. Like, I saw you perform it was the winter 90 to 91. I think it was one of your first shows out of New York. I want to say it was probably in your first handful of shows with, it was in a snowstorm at the Channel, and it was Burn.
Oh my God, I remember that. I think, was AF involved in that show? Maybe?
Yeah, it was Burn, AF, It was Burn, Wrecking Crew,
Crew,
AF, and there might have been somebody else too that I.
Oh my God, I remember that show. The channel, you could see the water off to the left, right?
Yes, the channel to me is, even though I probably only went to like maybe like 20 or 30 shows in my life at the channel, that's to me that's the venue that left a huge imprint on me. Just like some people in New York will have CBs. Some people in Brooklyn will have like in the more crossover world will have L'Amour or whatever. Yeah. And there's a whole generation that are like Coney Island High was their jam.
Yeah, you know? Absolutely.
But like for me, the channel in Boston was my jam. Just the location at the time, the way the city was at the time, it wasn't as sort of gentrified and built as it is now. So like that area, it's a very beautiful area.
Yeah.
And now the channel, where the channel was, is a parking lot. I believe they're building something there now, but it's, you know, it's sought after, you know, like
real estate.
Yeah, like true like commercial real estate. But back then it was gritty. It was not too big, not too small. Tons of musical history, and you could feel it. You know, some rooms kind of have that magic. So like when that happened, you know, that made a major imprint on me, and like the channel made a major imprint on me, and the Edge, which was also you played there as well. Remember that?
Something like that. Was it close?
It was basically the same building. It was just the other entrance on the other side.
A little smaller, right?
Yeah, you played there. That's where I got my purple Burn shirt that I had for a long time. I think I got there with the Uzi and the Uzi and the television.
Those shirts.
Oh, those were the best. You know, and it was also like aesthetically, Burn wasn't really like any other band,
right?
You know, it spoke a totally different language. You know, it's like really exciting. You know,
what language are you speaking aesthetically now?
That's a good question. I'm a weird amalgamation of things. For me, as a visual artist, I still think I'm just essentially a glorified collage artist of some kind, but you know, like I do a lot of mixed media stuff, and
mixed media. What's mixed media? What does that mean?
Mixed media to me, mixed media is essentially taking the basic concepts of collage and mixing of medias as, like, say I'll mix, you know, ink and gouache, or with photocopy. Gouache is a watercolor that you can get. It's a watercolor that you can get down to being truly opaque. So you can get really intense colors out of it.
Oh, cool.
So I'll mix everything. I'll mix it with acrylic and see what happens. I'll mix India ink with things. I'll mix.
How do you use India ink and the gouache and the acrylics?
Well, so they'll separate. I like to create interesting tension and pushes and pulls and things, for example. So I like what I'd like to call, and I've called before, things that are happy accidents.
Okay.
You know, so I'll just push something and something visually will come from it. So it's almost like a magical.
What does push mean?
Well, so oil and water don't mix, right? And so what ends up happening is you have pigment that will separate from, you know, will actually separate from oil. You'll have the water content of, you know, thing A or B will start bleeding into something else. Complete distortion, complete happy accidents, layers upon layers of things. And I found that style just out of, you know, doing records as a kid, you know, and just loving flyer art, loving sort of more primitive cut and paste. But I also loved when it started turning into things which were to me artistic. You know, some of the early punk records from Nausea to which was just like the perfect execution of a simple illustrative style mixed with a little bit of, like, you know, like ripping cut and paste profane existence style stuff. And then I loved when all that was just basically, you know, illustration with basic photostat, you know, stuff, and, like, you know, mocking stuff up on grid paper. But then
why would you mock something up on grid paper?
Well, back in the day, as you probably experienced as well, trying to figure out how something was, like, all right, so say, for example, that purple Burn shirt way back when, you probably had an Uzi, an image of an Uzi. You knew what you wanted. You knew what you wanted to create with this. I think with a television screen, you had a logo that was a Xerox altered logo that looked like nothing else though, and it had all these really interesting.
Thanks to Tim Boiling. Shouts to Tim Boiling for it. I got to give props where props are due.
Tim's a monster of graphic design and always has been. Unbelievable. I still worship everything he does. Totally different style than I have, but the way he would do it is still to this day, it's a beautiful thing.
So I want to get back to that distortion piece because that was interesting.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Because I feel like as an artist, you're kind of breathing these ideas as to how to kind of mix kind of innocence and lack of innocence, right? Because for me, innocence might represent melody, right? Everything's going to be okay. And lack of innocence is that crashing obstacle that you end up having to overcome that creates the tension, which creates the fire, right? So, what might you say to somebody that might be an artist that's like, wow, like I feel like I'm great at executing on the guitar, but I really want to try my painting or I really want to try my this or that. Why do you think you're able to play in so many fields? How can you make that creative thing a universal thing? So anything an artist of one expertise bracket might have, they can jump into the next thing.
Well, it's all trial and error, but more often than not, above anything, it's all craft. Right? It's craft and execution. So you might see something and you might want to emulate certain aspects of that because you find that they resonate with you in some way and you feel that you can add your voice to it. Then keep trying. You're not going to succeed the first time, the second time, the third time, the fourth time. Maybe you will, but if you're coming from a place where you feel that you've mastered a certain kind of instrument, whether it be a visual instrument or musical instrument, you need to learn a whole new language. But you have the emotional language and you have the psychological language. So now it's more or less a technical exercise in getting yourself to the point where you feel like you can play. Like, you have a guitar hanging out in the back, right? There's a Gibson chilling out there. I'm sure the first times that you played, you were hacking through stuff, just trying to figure it out. I do the same thing, but there's probably some stuff I'm really good at that other people are not. And that happens to be part of my own personal voice. You have a Moo grandmother or mother?
That is a Moo grandmother. It's correct.
Okay.
I love this.
Yeah, that's a beast. I love that thing. It's all of those incredible instruments that you could unpack that for a year in terms of the sounds that you can make out of it and get lost in that process. But you're always sharpening that skill. Maybe you'll come up with something on that will create an idea for a guitar line that you didn't think of previously. So you have to be open-minded. You have to be, you can't be free of flaws. You have to embrace your flaws and also realize that stuff's your voice. I've talked about this before with other visual artists and musicians, where a lot of us are always trying to get ourselves out of our art, right? So we're always trying to work.
What does that mean?
Well, to me, it means that you're all, and I'm generalizing a great deal because it doesn't apply to everybody, but it applies to me. And I think it probably will apply to you as well, where we all want to attain something within our art, whether it be our art and music. We want something to look a certain way, to have certain physical qualities. And sometimes we just don't reach that place. And it's frustrating for us, and we're still trying to get there. But what we create in that process is just as valid as the unattainable goal that we.
Why do you say that?
Well, because it's still good. I can look at something visually and
I think it's not good though, right? What if that's my challenge? I don't think it's good because am I relating am I expecting to master this thing too quickly or like?
Yeah, I think so. Or either too quickly or you're just not there yet. It just takes longer. It just takes more effort, especially in this day and age where we're so used to the immediacy of so many things.
Yes.
Even when it comes to digital recording, digital music, digital instruments, the physical, tangible craft is different. Like, you could turn that thing on and you could, hit a few oscillators and hold down a basic chord or do a couple of notes, and something's going to sound awesome.
Absolutely.
But to you, it's not. It might not sound totally awesome because it's not exactly what you want, but you're getting there, and it's about that process. So sometimes you have to zoom out a little versus zoom in and see where you're at in that creative process. One thing that I learned, and I still need to get better at because time just gets in the way, is keeping a log of sorts of your creative process. So when I was in art school, we would keep process books.
Okay.
Real simple things. I've got one. Hold on a second. Hold on. There's one right here.
Where are you? Are you in your studio right now?
By studio, Deathwish, yes. I'm just chilling out at the office.
Bam.
So I work in, my spot here is only we have and you've been to the building before. I think we have a couple floors of this building. Currently, we're on the third floor, and I just have like a 12 by 12 office. That's it. And it's pretty simple. There isn't much going on. But okay, so this is a process book that I've had for a while.
Wow.
All it is I would try to keep fragments of jobs as they progress. And so say, for example, if I, and by jobs, I mean projects. So a visual project of some kind. And
let us see a little bit of that as you talk.
Sure. Yeah. So as I would go, so here's some of the one.
Move it over just a bit. Give me a little bit more book. I want to see.
Give you a little more book. Perfect. So like this is just some. I mean, this is old stuff. This is when I was working on a band called Shipwreck. That were they still technically exist. A Massachusetts hardcore band, and I was working on some releases for them, and kind of brainstorming some ideas for their stuff. Some basic illustration stuff. I was working on. It's almost like a scrapbook of sorts, where you would kind of like take notes, keep track of your work, and kind of know where you're at. It's in its own way, it kind of becomes a piece of art in itself over time. It's just like just a bunch of stuff. I was doing some illustrations for the hip hop artist POS.
Okay.
And so I was doing these for him a long time ago. What else do I got in here?
So since this is chronological, flash forward as you progressed within your mastery in the book.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's the thing. It's not a
huge graduation.
Not a huge graduation. And so what it allows me to do is that as I go, just like I was doing a Jason Jesse piece for an art show. And so like I started working on the original Jim Phillips piece and started kind of messing with it and trying to come up with ideas as to how I would structure it.
Right. And obviously when I say graduation, I mean, in terms of you going deep into a specific idea, obviously you're an incredible artist, and that's why you're here.
Yeah. Well, like here's like, all right, so this is a good one. For example, this is like the back of a Converge Integrity Coliseum poster that I was working on. And it's, people are so hitched on making something immediate now. They don't see a physical process. They'll be like, oh, what font is that? Or what is, how did you make that digitally? It's like, yeah, this is cut and paste. This is gaff tape, packing tape, Xeroxes, happy accidents. It's not, I'll clean it up later for sure for use, but that's where that landed on that, Yeah. Like the original type for Rise and Fall Faith. It's an album that was named Rise and Fall released. Like I did that by hand. I have so much stuff. I mean, you name it.
Let's see some of that stuff.
Thousands of these are little abstract paintings that I started just doing some color experiments. It's like
hold a couple of them up. Let's see a couple.
There's so much stuff. Let's see what we got. Find a good one. I mean, that's the thing. The amount of like, here's like some crazy color ones.
Yeah, you know, and that is because the next thing I wanted to share, there's in your music and in your art, there's this blossoming chaos, right? And I'm not sure if that resonates. Does that resonate with you?
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, it does. I think because depending on the band, there is a commonality with all like the bands and projects where, you know, there's always trying to sort of find a voice that cuts through the chaos a little bit, and trying to find some sort of positivity or some sort of, I guess, some sort of purpose in some things. So yeah, it's always there, you know, and I just, from a visual artist standpoint, I like when something just when something invokes something emotional from me immediately. And so if I see something and I go, yes, I don't know what that is, but that's a beautiful thing. And, you know, I'm now interested in that, whether it be a song or piece of visual art or whatever. And so I'm always working for it. You know, it's like, it's really important to know that not everything you do is a masterpiece when you start it for you. You know, it's a process, you know. I'm surrounded by process in this office. You know, I have, like to put it in perspective, I did I'll show you some stuff, on my board here. I did a mixed media piece, based on the H.R. Geiger xenomorphs. Right. And so I did some prints of that last year. But let me see if I can spin this. I think I could probably spin it, but you can kind of see like, yeah, you can see like me like working out the shapes, you know, figuring out how I'm going to do the shapes.
Scary as fuck.
Yeah, but it's also mixed in with my kids' little drawings, you know. You know, is
that pushing? Is that pushing or no?
Is that pushing?
Yeah, is that like the oil and water piece, just from a kind of mood board standpoint?
Yeah, so that's India ink. Yeah, pushing mixed with some water and just seeing what happens. You know,
right.
And that's the way I work, you know, and I have bins and bins and bins of things. Like, this is like, I've been recently going through all this work that I did for Cayenne, for example, who have been a band for a long time. And this is like literally every photo I took for Cayenne over the last, you know, like
how many
20 years.
It's like 1,000.
Oh, more than that. I mean, that's what all that is.
One thing I liked about those pictures, they had a resonant energy coming off of them. And I feel like that's true of a lot of stuff that you're involved in. You know, how would you define chaos if you were to put chaos into a few words or something?
Well, I think that there's a pattern in everything, right? So chaos is essentially the absence of pattern. You know, human beings want to find a pattern in everything. We always want to see the cause for the effect. Chaos is just the effect, where you don't see the pattern. And I think there's a pattern virtually in everything. And so to me, the process is, you know, is the cause before you get to the effect, which is your final version of art or music or whatever you choose to make, you know? So it's so to me, that stuff is sort of like, it's not chaos, you know, it's just, it's a long road to creating something that visually solves a variety of problems that were set forth in the beginning to solve. So when I design a record, for example, Burn, Do or Die, for example, bunch of songs, a bunch of lyrics, an existing aesthetic, that I wanted to make feel like it was an extension of what I still felt at the time that was the most powerful visual aesthetic of that band, which is the first EP.
I agree.
You know, the first EP, it was simple, effective, but it felt like it came from outer space. It felt like this finished character that was unlike anything else. And I was like, all right, I don't want to necessarily ignore everything that led up to that, but I wanted to create something that felt like a natural extension of all the things that connected with me as a fan from that first one and bring it and bring in new elements, bring in cut and paste elements, bring in found objects, bring in a little bit of illustration, a little bit of photo manipulation, a little bit of photocopying, and trying to basically do it again, but do it again, on steroids. Yeah. And, so then you go through that process.
Incredible.
Well, it's hard. It took months, but the good ones do usually. And the good ones, to me, even if it's like a really simple thing, like it's a singular cover, more often than not, you exhaust yourself for weeks and months getting up to that point. You're always doing that work. Like, I bet you probably worked on some songs on your gear there that like you might have fallen asleep thinking about over and over again.
All the time.
Yes.
Wake up hearing it.
Yes. And that's, to me, that's not you just sort of meandering and not putting in real time.
Right.
When I go to sleep at night and I'm thinking of a specific project or a specific song or a visual or something like that, I'm working out little subtle details of that creative process in that. I've definitely gone, and I think if you're a visual artist or a musician, you relate to that. Like you're always working on something, and then you might jump on it, and you might have had it in your head for 4 months, but you just, it looks like you cranked it out in 20 minutes, but you didn't. You were really sharpening that stuff for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of remnants and fragments of things all over the place from projects and from jobs, semi-organized to a degree. I try to be, I find that as a person, I am more productive when I am organized, when things aren't all chaos. And so, like, for the most part in here, it's pretty under control, considering how bad it could be, in terms of just kind of having fragments of these jobs and projects and, pieces of art all over the place.
Right. What's music? What does music mean to you?
That's a good question. My relationship with music is definitely changed over the last, I don't know, like 20, 30 years, right? Like, since I was a kid, it went from just being this thing that enamored me by the volume and the power of it, so much so that I, sucked me in. The gravity of it sucked me in. And so I've been captive on Planet Music, for better or worse, from more than half my life. And I'm cool with that. It's awesome, but it has changed a lot. Like, I'm sure that you don't, I don't know, the small things that made me excited about music when I was a kid still make me excited.
What are the small things? What is that? What's small?
Just like having the emotional reaction to a song where something really speaks to you, not as if you wrote it, but as if they wrote it to you and for you. It could be a singular note. It could be just a simple chord progression that just like always gets you every time. It could just be a crack in somebody's voice. It's those little, those sort of like little emotional nuances that affect me, and they still do affect me. I think that the interesting thing now is that there is so much music, and I have so much history in terms of working with music and working on musical projects that I kind of tune out from music a lot now. And I think that I do it for a variety of reasons. A little bit experimental in the sense that when I'm making music, I don't like to listen to anything else.
Me too.
That's it. It's just either what I'm creating, or if I'm working on the visuals for a musical project, I try to only give myself to that record for that determined amount of time, because I'm speaking that language.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's hard though, because you get tired, because you get sick of it. Even if it's the greatest thing in the world, you're like, fuck this.
So with that in mind, have you ever thought about, how is there a way for me to shortcut this process so I can execute when the ideas are as fresh as possible?
I just, I'm a stubborn punk rock guy. I'm a stubborn punk rock hardcore guy. And that is I think that's a blessing and a curse when it comes to being creative, because I know I need to be disciplined. Mm-hmm. Even though my work might look incredibly loose or have whatever, I know I need to be disciplined in my focus, and at least have the only like that specific record playing, for example, or if I'm working on a song, only listen to versions of that song over and over again, and really try to like organize my thoughts around that and stay disciplined. Because I think that is what leads to a successful piece of whatever. I think that a lot of people do not have that attention span, and it's a muscle. It's an arduous task. I think the more that you do it and the more that you work on that aspect of the craft, the better that you become as a communicator. You might not become a more proficient musician or technically proficient musician, but you know what you want and you know how to get to that point. So it's not about you grabbing that Gibson and being able to like rip an insane solo and play like Eddie Van Halen or Prince or something like that.
That's not my expression.
That's not your thing. But there's some guitarists, that's all when they see that guitar, that's all they see. They unpack it. Yes, that's it. That's all they can do. That's cool.
That's
I
amazing.
Can't do that. Yeah, it acts to me. That's virtuosic. Like virtuosic endeavors of a creative person. I can't do that, but I can outwork a lot of people.
Right.
In the sense that I will pay attention to a ton of detail, and I want to try to outwork myself. Like I want all of my layers, even if it looks like chaos, to be intentional.
Right. What purpose does you're a label owner, right? Deathwish. You're in a ton of amazing bands. What purpose does music have for the listener? What's it supposed to do for me as a product?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it becomes a product when it becomes a vessel that you have to essentially a tangible vessel that you have to buy and sell to exist within the economy that we were born into.
And I mean that currency more from a kind of positive aspect.
Yeah.
Vendas, like, how do you go ahead? Sir.
No, 100%. Because I don't see calling it a product as a negative thing. And I think that's a thing that it's almost like it's a byproduct of the punk world that we came from, right? Mm-hmm. That if something's a product, it's bad. It's mass produced. Yeah, it's like, I get it. It is a product, but there's also a level of economy to this that we cannot change. That for all of the philosophical conversations that we can have about trying to change it and trying to have other ways of paying for things, other ways of appreciating things. Things have value. They take effort. People need to be compensated for their efforts. Yeah. It just is what it is. And so you just try to
cost. It just costs.
It's just cost, because living costs. It comes down to we literally are in this, literally, and maybe we can maybe that can change in 500 years and we'll have a different system, but that's the system that we have right now. So like, I try not to overthink that aspect of things and just kind of go, okay, how can I do this in a way that takes care of everybody fairly and keeps costs down to the point where, in my eyes, they're still punk rock, Right. I held on to like the $10 and $12 t-shirt price forever until we were basically just losing money, printing shirts, because there's an economy to it. You just have to exist in that reality. So to me, the product is a vessel, whether it be the actual record itself, CD itself, cassette itself, whatever, digital music itself, doesn't matter. Even if it's a song, it's still this thing. It's an entity. It exists. And the same thing goes for a shirt or whatever apparel and merchandising that gets associated with music. And to me, that's not a negative thing either, because when I was a kid, even at that show in 1990, 91, I went there and I had probably paid like $10 or $12 to get into the show. And then I probably had $20 burning in my pocket to buy something, anything. So I would connect with something, because to me, a band shirt wasn't just, hey, I have a band shirt, I have a piece of clothing. It was an identifier. Yeah. It told me, it was me telling the world that this is something special that connects with me and you should know about it. And even if it's speaking to the guy at the gas station who gives no fucks about that shirt, to me, having that being an identifier for my own personality was important as a kid, as a teenager. Of course. And it is now. I still get the same feeling when I see an awesome band shirt. Dinosaur Jr. rolled out a pre-order for the record a couple weeks ago. I got stoked. I was like, yes, look at that. I want that. I'm like, no, I don't need that. I don't need another band shirt, but I want to support it and I want to have it, and that's, I think that's the relationship that a lot of people have with music. It speaks little pieces of their own personality and language. And that, to me, that's not something that's negative at all. Right. Even the way bands like Kiss do it, where they have coffins, it is what it is. Somebody wants a Kiss coffin. They're having fun with it. It is what it is.
Speaking of having fun, how do you kind of gauge what fun is as a grown-ass man, with God knows how many projects, how many, you have a couple kids, a kid?
I've got two boys, and a lovely wife who's awesome. Fun for me is simple stuff. It's being with them. I'm not a wildly materialistic person. Like, I know what I like, and because of that, like, I just go out and I get what I like. Because it's all.
What do you like? What do you like?
What do I like? That's a good question. Here's the thing. I don't collect stuff. Yeah, I don't collect. I have records, but I don't really collect records. I have stuff. I have some copies of some stuff I made, but I give most of them away. Like the guy who lives in my town, who just helped me fix my dishwasher the other day. Oh, he's an old hardcore kid. He wanted some records because one of his friends is a collector. I gave him a bunch of records. I don't like. To me, it means more to me that person has a connection with something I created than me having a dusty old record on a shelf. Absolutely. And that's also my outlook on this label too. There's a lot of things that we make and a lot of products that we make that connect with people, and they're just as valid for them. Right. For me, I'll probably, I probably wear the same 20 t-shirts all the time. Yeah. I probably wear the same, like 4 or 5 pairs of jeans all the time. Like I don't really give a shit about like amassing a thing. So I guess like right now, what am I into? It's tough. I like old small boats. That are
boats or something like that.
No, like real deal boats. I like spending.
Is there a body of water near you that you get into?
Oh yeah. I know. We're on the ocean here, so so I'm out there all the time, and a lot of that is because it scares me. That's probably.
Tell us about. You have the boat. Do you have to get it into the water? Give us. Oh yeah. As much time as you want about. From you and your home to the boat and water being
me. I've been taking out punk rock dudes for years on boats. But yeah, it's the boats are scary as fuck. But that's why I love them. They have no brakes. They have no brakes, and they can hit stuff. And if they sink, they kill you. It's very real.
Is it like a boat that's like in the back of a trailer? Like
yeah.
So tell me, I want to hear, how do you get it into the water? I've never done this.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Well, yeah, you are a city man.
I'm a city boy. Man.
That's right. City man. Yes, you're a city man. Well, you have water. People have boats in your river there. They do some stuff. There's boat. You got some.
Is there a motor on it? Is there a motor on your boat or just paddles?
Yeah, I when I was growing up, my father had a small sailboat, and he lived on it for a brief time in the city, in the harbor, actually. And so when I would spend weekends with
Hudson River Basin.
No, here would be the Charles River and the Boston Harbor.
You said your dad lived on a houseboat. Your dad lived on a houseboat. Did you just share that?
Yeah, no. No. So my father lived on like I think his boat was probably like 23 feet. I mean, we're not talking about a big boat. We're talking a tiny sailboat. And there's
New York. He said he was in New York.
No, in Boston.
Oh, my bad.
And now in Boston. Yeah, it's all good. And my experience with that was, it was awesome, but it was terrifying because, you had jaws in your head. You had, it's black water.
Right.
You can't see you don't know what your depth is. You can't see anything. You don't know what anything is. Mm-hmm. And with that boat, it freaked me out, especially like as an adolescent. Like I was a young skate kid who's getting into punk rock and hardcore and stuff. And like, I would, spend a weekend sleeping on this, 4-foot little, like little cushion on his boat. And that stuff, when you're a kid, it feels like it's forever, and it feels like it's huge because your life is so small and compartmentalized because you're young. Mm-hmm. So everything is the biggest problem, or everything is the biggest experience when you're 13 or 14 years old or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so that was my first experience at actually legit having to deal with that anxiety of it's real lizard brain shit, like it's
absolutely,
your brain just
reptile brain,
it's just going like, hey, I'm not supposed to be here. There's something that can eat me, probably,
should I run now? And I think what happened because my dad had a friend who lived in the Hudson River Basin on a boat. Mm-hmm. And so when you said my dad boat, I just immediately flashed. Oh yeah, right there.
Yeah. So it was cool though. It was cool, and it scared me, but it also interested me. But back then, this is like the late '80s, early '90s. Mm-hmm. I was seeing all this stuff, and I'm just kind of like, I was like, wow, that boat's from like 1950 and it's still out there, 1940. And boats aren't like boats can last a long time if they don't sink. Right. So there isn't much to it. You can take a 30 or 40-year-old boat and you put a new engine in it and it's a new thing and it lasts forever. As long as it floats, it's good. And so I've always loved doing that. And we have a lot of little inlets and channels and stuff here, and little rivers and stuff that you can cruise around in and stuff. And a lot of places that a lot of people can't get to, which feels, I want to call it exclusive, because exclusive indicates like some sort of like exclusionary practice, but it's more like there's a lot of like locals only kind of spots, that like people can't get to and don't
prohibitive, not cost wise, but location wise.
Yeah. Just figure out a way to get there. If you can figure out a way to get there, it's awesome, but still it's just, a bunch of sand somewhere. But it's, it's beautiful to see. So I like doing that. That's a fun thing for me. I like biking a lot.
I noticed that.
I've always been a biking guy, even though it wasn't always a big part of my life when I started getting into my 30s and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I'm sort of back at doing that again.
What's the value in biking for you? Why do you like to get on the bike?
It's something that connected with me when I was 7 years old, when I got my first, Hutch Pro Raider.
Hell yeah.
And it sets your life, it sets you free when you're a kid.
Yes.
And I've been trying to explain this to my oldest lately, and he's like, why do you think a bike is the best toy? I'm like, because it's a vehicle and a toy, and it gives you freedom to essentially go anywhere and do anything. A skateboard is no different when you're a kid too. It does the same thing. It's a vehicle for expression, but it's also it's a way out in a variety of ways, to just find yourself, challenge yourself, just get the fuck out of something, and that's different for everybody. But so for bikes, for me, were a big deal. And then when I got into college and moved to the city, all I did was ride bikes. I didn't get a driver's license until I was like 21 years old or something like that, because there was no need to. Yeah, I didn't care.
Do you bike messenger at any point or any of that? You have a fixed wheel where you're
sort of. Yeah, I did. I did the fixed thing. I did the single speed thing, which I like more than the fixed thing. And when I was in the city for, I guess, like 4 years, I just took a really light mountain bike at the time and turned it into a road bike with slicks. So it was geared, but it was also comfortable.
Right.
And so it wasn't a total death trap, but it was really fast and light. And I learned that by seeing some of the couriers that were out there that were doing stuff. They would do the same thing. I remember the bass player of Sam Black Church was always out. I think it was him. Yeah, he was always out on his specialized stump jumper. He was a courier. I would see people all the time, and I was just like, this is just me. It was just perfect. Right. So I got a bike and I did that for a long time. And then the bike thing, after I finished school and started moving places where it was just like harder to sort of recreation, like to ride for transportation, that that aspect of my life changed a bit. But now I'm back at it as a recreational thing, which is super fun to connect with that again. For a bunch of years, I would say for about 10 or so, I got really into Muay Thai and boxing, and kind of gave all my free time that wasn't music to that world. And that was like in the early to mid 2000s up until about like 6 years ago or something like that.
Okay.
And it's just it's a time suck, if I found that world, if it was progressed at the point it is now, when I was a teenager, I could have very well gone that road from skateboarding and BMX into that. Because I was always a fan of combat sports and stuff as a kid, but it just kind of turned into something different over time. And as I watched it all as a fan, just like all the early, like I'm sure you had the same thing, and you do in New York, where like all the old hardcore guys, they started doing, jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai when it was in the late 90s and stuff. Yeah. And, it just it went hand in hand with aggressive music in a variety of ways, a bunch of parallels. So I did that for a long time and really enjoyed that. And if I was younger, I probably would have stayed doing that,
Right.
But I really enjoy being a father and having as much time I can with my kids. And so it's just not something I have in there right now. But I really did. I did it so much that I actually ended up becoming a licensed judge, MMA judge in the state.
Wow.
So I have my license to do that, or it still exists. I have to.
Do you find yourself jumping into the pit and just holding up your card and being like, all right, let's do this the right way?
Let's do this the right way. Well, what's funny is like the more that you're around that stuff, it's like when you see chaotic situations like that, where like, there's like a bunch of, just kids going wild. It doesn't look wild to you. It just looks really, it's just funny. It's funny and disorganized, and you appreciate it for what it is. And you're like, well, that guy thinks he's going to fight and thinks he knows how to fight, and does not know how to fight. He's a big guy,
Yikes.
It's just a different thing. So I did that for a while, but once the kids were born, I stopped doing that just to have more family time.
I appreciate that. I want to close out, and this could be as broad or as short as you want, you'd like. But is chaos necessary? Is it necessary for human development? Is it necessary?
I feel that chaos is, period. That's a sentence. Chaos is. So it's not necessarily it's necessary. You have to just accept the fact that it is chaos. I feel it as a human animal. I think we're always trying to create order and organize, because we can't exist in chaos. Every animal has their own version of organization, whether it be just going out and, getting food at certain times of the day, and living in their den, or if they're, or I don't know, if they're a herd animal, they just do a certain thing with the rest of them all the time.
Right.
And then you kind of fall into these patterns, and these patterns are basic survival patterns. I think human beings are very complicated in the sense that we are psychologically and neurologically progressed to this point where we are thinking about these existential questions. And sometimes I feel that we do ourselves a disservice by analyzing them. I mean, somebody has to do it, right? Because that's how evolution actually happens and progression happens. But I think that we get lost in some of that noise because I think our intellectual capabilities are not all the same. Mm-hmm. And we're dealing, even though we may all be human beings, I think that we operate on so many different wavelengths and operate in so many different places that it will always be chaos, and then we'll look at somebody else's life and we'll look at their value system and their morals and ethics, and we'll have some sort of judgment call on that. But like, who's to say what's right or wrong? We're just a really big mess. I think just chaos is. And I think that, I think chaos is, and I think that we don't, as animals, as human beings, I don't think that we have the ability to have true perspective because we live on this rock in space, and we would need to be very, very far away from that rock to really have accurate perspective as to what all of this is. So rather than spend our limited time agonizing over that, I think that we just have to be. So the human being just has to be, and chaos just is.
Damn, that's it. I want to thank you for being on. I mean, a lot to fucking think about, which is what fucking I like anyway.
There's so many incredible books, so many incredible documentaries. There's so many incredible, philosophers.
Name one incredible documentary real quick.
Oh, yes, sure. Hold on. I just watched it the other day while I was working. I keep a lot, similar to you. I think you do the same thing. I'm a big, like audiobook, podcast guy, documentary guy. Because I can't listen to music all the time.
Exactly.
So if I'm not listening to something I'm working on, I got to check out entirely. Okay. So there's an incredible BBC one that a friend just sent me. It is called, if I can find it, let's see. Where is it?
Share screen for history.
Oh, I know, right? Here, hold on. It's important enough that this is worth it. Let me see if I can find it in my history here.
In the meanwhile, where can folks find you, and where can they get for your stuff?
Sure. So people can find me obviously on the internet. The main band is Converge, and we're still very much an active band amid this COVID disaster area that we live in. Okay. Before I'll get to this in a second. Let me turn that off. So I have that. I did an album with a bunch of friends called Umbrevite Shadow of Life, which is a new band. It's interesting. Thank you. I appreciate that band, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's just, people will call it death metal. It's death metal rooted. I'm not a death metal vocalist. I'll never sound like that. That's like, it's just not my thing. I'm like, I'm a rabid punk guy, so I sound like so I do my thing. But I really enjoy writing those songs with that team. They're awesome. I just did a project called Blood from the Soul, which is actually an older project that Shane from Napalm Death did a long time ago.
I listened to something yesterday. It sounded hard. Yeah,
it's hard. It's a concept record, which sounds fucking crazy because most concept records are kind of not great. No. But it's a loose concept record built around a sort of dystopian future thing that I wrote. The original record that he did with Lou from Sick of It All in 1992 or 1. Yeah, so Lou sang on the first one. So it was just Shane and Lou doing industrial metal essentially way back when. Then the project kind of went to bed, kind of came back to life a few times, but nothing really materialized. And then Shane got with Dirk, who's the drummer in Megadeth, actually, and a bunch of other things. He's a ripper. And they started putting the songs together. And then we got Jesper, who's the bass player of this band Nazem, who are like a really prolific grind band that made a lot of impact a bunch of years ago. And they pulled me in to basically give it some lyrical direction and kind of finish it off. And I really like what we did. And to me, it's a really special record too.
Is that
and I
out there
also
or no?
It's kind of. It's digitally. It's out. COVID fucked up everything. So, COVID fucked up mainly delivery dates on manufactured physical media. So, the record's actually on a boat now coming here because we can't. We can't.
Is it on one of your boats right now? Did you say one of your boats?
I wish it was. No, it is not. The biggest I go is. It's like 17 feet, 20 feet. It's on some sort of freighter somewhere on its way here, which is cool. I'm excited about that. And I also have a band called Wear Your Wounds, which is more like a sort of sad post-rock band. Started off as a solo deal, but then I kind of pulled in a bunch of my friends over time. And so we're still making music and doing stuff. COVID kind of killed some of our touring as well.
Sucks.
But whatever, it's all good. We'll all survive. And, Converge is being Converge. We're working on a ton of stuff at the moment. And it feels like it's been slow going because there hasn't been much, live activity because we got 2020 got, thrown in the trash can for us.
Yes.
We had a ton of tours confirmed. We had recording that got fucked up. So now we're, slowly starting to piece all those things together, but we have a busy year coming up too. Okay. The documentary is a BBC documentary called Can't Get You Out of My Head.
Okay. What's the kind of basic premise of it? Basic premise.
Okay. I can read it. I'll read it.
Sure. Why not? Let's get
it. So the director Adam Curtis did it. And his synopsis is, we're living through strange days across Britain, Europe, and America. Societies have become split and polarized. There's anger and inequality, and that essentially starts to unpack some of the moments of social change that brought us to the point where we're at now.
Wow.
And it's a 3 or 4 parter. Some stuff I absolutely love about it. Some stuff I don't, but that's the world. That's what you need to unpack. And that's the best part of it. So I really encourage you to check out that. My brother-in-law, Kevin, turned me on to that, and it's really great. And so, check that out for sure.
Awesome. Before we say goodbye, is there any other media that you'd like to recommend to people? Be they friends, bands, books to band, anything? Sure.
Let's see. Have you read the Tom Curtis book or listened to? Because that's how I take in books a lot too. Called Chaos. Did you ever read Chaos?
No, I need to get into that. Let me write that down.
So Chaos, Tom Curtis worked on it for like 20 years or something like that. And he was a writer for, I think he was doing like Entertainment Weekly and stuff like that. But he did this, he was doing a piece on the Manson family. Mm-hmm. And then he realized that there was basically a lot more to unpack about the Manson family and its relationship to the CIA, and a variety of things that were being unpacked in Haight-Ashbury at the time. And it's really phenomenal. And you just kind of see if somebody isn't really that aware of the potential madness that exists in this world, they can kind of see it there. And it's pretty interesting to see.
Wow,
so check out that book. It's cool. It got a bunch of hype. I think Rogan had it on like a year ago or so, and then Tom Curtis made some more podcasts, whatever, like interviews happen, and he kind of ended up in a bunch of places, and he's cool. I would definitely look into his book. It's really special.
Awesome. Thank you for that recommendation. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Jacob from Converge, Wear Your Wounds. I mean, I can just go on. The list goes on. Your art's amazing. Everything that you shared today, I think, is really valuable in helping, just me as an artist, kind of understand how I can kind of be more prolific and be more systematic and work towards mastery. I want to thank you for coming on. Have a great 2021.
You too.
And I look forward to seeing you in the future.
All right, we'll be in touch. Thanks, Chaka.
Thank you so much.
Check 1 2 1 2 1 2. Who's that? Wait, what? Wait, what? Who are you?
Who dat?
Who are you?
I'm Sarah Ellen, wellness coach.
wellness coach? Not a basketball coach.
No.
Not a football coach.
No.
So wellness coach, wellness. Well. What does that mean? Wellness. What is wellness?
Well, there are a lot of wellness coaches out there, and they focus on different things, everything from fitness to food and everything in between. But for me, I guess wellness means where you're at here.
Okay.
And where you're at here.
What is that? Is that the heart or the throat chakra? What are you pointing to?
I'm talking here. So how we're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Because how we think will formulate feelings, how we feel. And, how we feel is really important physically, emotionally, mentally. So that's the kind of wellness that I'm into.
So is that something that you just kind of picked up by daydreaming in class, or like when you sign, how do you become a wellness coach?
Well, usually, is there a usually? How did I become a wellness coach?
How did you, Sarah Ellen, become a wellness coach?
Well, I was inspired by some amazing mentors that I then started to work with, that trained me, that, download a whole heap of information.
What inspired you about them? What was so inspiring?
What's that?
What was so inspiring about these people?
The empowerment that you can get when you know how your body works and how your mind actually functions, because we have unconscious and conscious thoughts. And when you can find out what's going on with the unconscious, you can start doing something with your conscious and your reality.
So kind of mind shapes reality, like Neville Goddard and other folks like that in the space?
Yeah, like that. But what was inspiring was the empowerment.
How did it empower you? Give us an example of how it empowered you, maybe.
Well, I'm a human, and if anything goes wrong with me...
No, wait, you know what?
I'm an alien, but I'm also...
You told me you were a hybrid. You said you were an alien-human hybrid.
I'm an alien,
Okay,
too.
so you're full human, and go ahead. Full human.
If something happens to me, I think there was a point in time where I was thinking, what if I got cancer, or what if I was unwell? Like, what would happen to the people in my life? Like, what would I do if I was in this situation? It would be terrible. It would be disempowering. And, I found that there's this cycle where people were giving away their power. If they're unwell, they're going to somebody else to tell them what to do.
Okay.
So what was empowering and inspiring about the whole wellness side of things was being able to take that back into your own hands and actually check in with your own body's guidance and what your body can do when you just put it in the right kind of position and conditioning.
So kind of getting in touch with your own healing. Thoughts said, healed physician, heal thyself.
Yeah, and I think we get caught up in, I need to take this, I need to do that, when actually our brain created, our thyroid created, the rest of our body in the womb. Like, our body knows how to make itself, it knows how to heal itself, it knows how to regenerate itself. And I think I completely didn't comprehend that, or wasn't really focused on that, because I was in the system of, if I have a headache, I need to do this. Or if I break my leg, I need to do this. If I get cancer, I have to do that.
Right. So are you saying if I break my leg, should I not go to the doctor? Should I take herbs if I break my leg?
I'm definitely going to the doctors.
Okay, I just wanted to double check on that.
But there's also some healing processes that happen afterwards. There's things you can do before and after illnesses. There's things you can do after injuries.
So kind of preventative stuff? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I think how we live our life can be preventative.
Lifestyle choices.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So wellness is something you're taking the time to study. You're obviously a wellness coach, so this is meaningful to you. Can you give us a personal example of maybe either yourself or where you've seen kind of wellness really make a strong impact in someone's life?
Well, again, wellness is really broad, but I think mental health is a huge thing, and it's something that has a huge stigma to it as well.
Absolutely.
And I feel like I was going through some mental health struggles that no one noticed. I just didn't feel right. I felt a little numb. I didn't feel happy. I was feeling kind of frustrated. I was feeling a little cranky, angry. And not really living maybe my truth, I guess, is probably the best way to put it. So I think wellness has a lot to do with living your truth and your passion and into the things that make you, explode with joy. Like, not just going through the motions. I think so many of us are going through the motions. That's a mental health issue.
How can we stop going through the motions? How can we make changes?
We need to get into a situation where we're not just accepting everyday life as it is. Like, we actually can look around and focus on what it is that makes us happy. So if you're finding things that are going to give you joy, you do more of that. Or if you're someone that's always giving because you need to feel validated by other people, which a lot of us don't admit to, but we do.
Pleaser mentality.
There's a lot of that going on, and I understand it. I've definitely been there. It's easy to fall into that trap. But
I like helping people.
Well, again, good people do like to
good.
help people, and that's being a pleaser as well in a way. But what happens is good people, people that are trying to do the right thing, often put others first, over and over and over again. And they forget that there are things that need to be fulfilled inside of us that actually no one else is going to be able to do, because you don't know you. You need to find out who you are, because until you find out who you are, you're actually probably expecting everybody else to fulfill your needs and to preempt what it is that what's going to make you happy. And it doesn't work that way.
So I've seen people talk about self-care, and you see the girls, they have the bathtub, and even guys, I've done one bathroom selfie when I was in my tub.
Nice.
I did a bathtub selfie.
How'd
it was
that
a video.
Go? Did you have lots of bubbles?
I had lots of likes.
You didn't have the bubbles. You got to hide.
I didn't have any bubbles, but I did have lots of likes, and that's all that matters when it comes to the bathtub selfie. Right? Okay. I didn't show too much leg. I showed a little bit of leg.
All right.
Why does a bath feel good? Is it more than feeling? Is there a health? Like, what is a bath? Like, why have baths been the Roman baths, the Greek baths? What is a bath? What does it do for you?
Look, we've talked about how I'm into self-care. Of course, a bath can be great if you're into self-care, because it's that, you get to relax. There is a lot more to it though, right? So you're touching on something here. When we're having a bath, it's actually a lot to do with our lymphatic system.
What's a lymphatic system?
Our lymphatic system is our trash removal system that's in our body. So our body will remove trash through our digestive system and our colon, of course, but we have a hell of a lot of other waste that needs to expel throughout our pores and through our skin. And our lymphatic system is something that is basically, working every part.
So is that like BO? Is that lymphatic?
Lymphatic is under your arms, of course, that's BO. So when we sweat, it's all coming from our lymphatic system. When we are feeling like we have, sluggishness, or, we're really feeling inflammation, you're often going to feel that behind your knees.
So lymphatic system, the bathtub, what's the connection?
All right, the connection is we need to look after our lymphatic system. When you're in the bath, the cool thing is you're actually dumping about half a gallon of lymphatic fluid. We have more lymphatic fluid than blood, by the way. We have more lymphatic fluid than blood. A lot of people think that we're all just blood. It's actually lymphatic fluid first. So we've got all this trash removal thing going on. If it's sluggish, you're going to feel awful and you're going to have all sorts of ailments. The bath is something that's going to help the lymphatic system to dump half a gallon, and then it's going to draw up what's in the bath. So there is something about putting in essential oils, putting in the magnesium salts, Epsom salts, things like that, even just Himalayan salts. There is something about that. There is a reason why we do that. It's not just that it smells good and it feels nice. It actually is going into our system through our skin. Yeah, and anything that's on our skin, 26 seconds later, it's in our bloodstream. So we really need to look after our skin, and the bath has a lot to do with it.
Skin's the biggest organ, right?
Sure is. And we even have, the little wrinkly bits on our fingers that we get when we're in the bath.
Raisins, right? Waterlogged.
Something like that. It's actually designed for grip. Scientifically, it's for gripping. But what I find really interesting is it's linked in with the lymphatic system. So
that's cool. I never knew that.
And down, yeah.
All right. Does that mean I should take 3 baths a day? Should I?
If you really want to, you can. But it's one of those things if you do that on a regular basis, it's really going to help your skin to dump. There are other things you can do as well, though.
What else should I do?
Well, with your skin, you can get me rolling on skin. With your skin, you can body brush, toward the heart with a special brush that's soft.
Is this scientifically proven to do stuff?
It is, yes.
You think? I mean, do you think it is, or do you know it is?
No, it's scientifically proven.
It is scientifically proven.
Yeah,
of course, it is.
Yeah. So it's something that you can do to actually boost and allow flow in your lymphatic system if it's sluggish, etc. You get fat ankles when you've been on the plane. That's your lymphatic system being super sluggish.
Oh.
Yeah.
What about bags under my eyes? Is that lymphatic too?
That's your kidneys.
That's kidneys.
Yeah.
All right, so what should I do if I have bags under my eyes? I have a little bit of bags here, and I've been thinking about this episode day and night.
Have you?
I've been thinking about this episode. So tell me, what should I do to kind of relieve these bags besides finish the episode?
To be fair, oh thanks.
Not finished with you. Go ahead.
I mean, the age-old cucumbers on the eyes, it's going to draw some stuff out. I mean, that's obviously pretty helpful. Making sure that you are looking after your digestive system, because your digestive system and things that you're eating are going to actually look after every piece of you, every part.
So does that mean like count calories? What do you mean look after? Count calories, don't eat meat? Like, what does that mean?
We could go really deep on this, but if you're looking at like kidneys, you want to make sure that you maybe looking at the right kind of herbs to do some cleansing. And to assist.
Like what?
I think you could go through and you can look up. There's some actual kidney cleansers that are going to make a huge difference.
I've seen some good ones. Is cayenne good for kidneys, the cleanse, or is that something else?
I think that's more a liver thing.
Liver, right?
But yeah, there's lots. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be complicated.
Right.
But even if you're wanting to look after your kidneys, there are things that you can do. Like when it's summer, eat as much watermelon as you can. It's going to be helping. It's
hydrating, right?
It's hydrating. It's a bit of a diuretic. It's going to help to flush out your system. There are definitely some specific herbs that you can do for kidneys, but I think people do get worried if they don't have the right things. You can just do tea. You can drink teas and a lot.
What about even just hot water?
Hot water is great.
Yeah.
It's always great for hydration. Yeah.
You mentioned the liver, and
liver's more my speciality. Yeah.
So, I came here, you guys had an awesome special on Instagram, and I took advantage of that special. And there was a treatment I underwent, and it was a liver kind of thing, like with some lights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, like, that really made me feel like I now know what wellness is, right? Because guys, like, I felt 100% different after I kind of was done with this particular treatment. I felt way more balanced, way more calm, kind of just way more open, What kind of treatments are there that people can kind of go through that can help them to kind of achieve that?
Well, liver, a lot of people don't realize, is linked to anger, and it's also linked to your gallbladder. So it's anger and resentment. We hold emotions,
unforgiveness, right?
Parts of our body. So it can really help with, so anything that's going to undo and release, not necessarily undo, but just releasing and being able to have permission to fully feel our feelings and not suppress things like anger and frustration and that sort of stuff. I think it's important to safely express how you feel. The treatments that you can do a liver flush, these sorts of things, but I would say work with someone who knows what they're doing when it comes to that. That's why I'm not wanting to tell you all of the herbs that come with kidneys or whatever.
Yeah, and we're going to have her information below, so if you guys want to contact Sarah Ellen and come by and see how she can help you, that you'll be able to do that.
It can be quite individual. So with liver, you want to make sure that you're raising your frequency. That's why the treatment that you were using the other day with the biochar.
Talk to me about frequency as it relates to the body. What does that mean?
Well, when we're all made of energy, and we're all electricity, based. So when we are low vibe and not feeling great, and we're depressed, etc., our vibration is vibing pretty low. Right. Now, bad energy. There are certain things that you can do to lift that. Now, there are certain, believe it or not, it sounds crazy, but there are certain essential oils that you can use that can help to, when you have them on your skin, they help to lift your vibration. But there's also, there are many different treatments, but the one that you tried was the biocharger, and it actually has a frequency that works in with lifting the vibration of the liver and actually working with that. It sounds too good to be true, but it definitely works. It absolutely worked. I can 100% vouch for the fact that this worked, and it really kind of made me, want to reinvest in coming and working with her to get more treatment. I'll just be honest, really made a huge change.
as you guys, many of you know, like I grew up in the health food store world. This is a world I come from. But I really felt like wellness, the health and wellness, the wellness part is something that I had never really heard of. I never really felt, rather, was real until I had one of these treatments on the machine that Sarah Ellen has mentioned. Kind of in closing, right? What should I do? Like you mentioned something about if I feel good, then that helps my health. Like, give us some parameters around that, and give us a few pointers on how we can feel good and help our health.
Well, what I was saying to you before is like how we feel affects our organs, it affects all of our body, right? But how we feel has a lot to do with how we think. So to me, it's about trying to change your thinking. So if there's certain things that, you can't control, focus on the things you can. They're the things that are really important. And we're often living in our reality based on decisions that we made before, based on other people's decisions, all of that stuff. So sometimes we can't get out of our situation, but it is really important to make steps towards making better decisions now that are going to, you're going to reap the rewards of moving forward.
Wow.
But feeling better, if you can do something like moving your body, it sounds really old, like that you got to move your body and it's going to make you feel good, but it's scientifically proven. So again, if you're not feeling great, move your body, even if it's just micro movements, because it helps you hydrate your body just by moving. It's not just drinking the water and having hydration within your foods. It is actually the micro movements of just getting things flowing, because we are made of tubes. We are all tubes, so we want to make sure that they're not blocked and things are flowing really well. So doing things that make you happy, like dancing, investing in maybe writing a list of the things that you're not doing that you'd like to do that would make you feel proud of yourself, and actually thinking, okay, well, yep, I might be naturally a giver and a pleaser and all those things, but today and every day for the next week, I'm going to pick 2 or 3 things on my list, and I'm going to do them first before I even talk to anyone else.
Prioritizing yourself.
Well, it sounds selfish, but it is so self-full. And what you have when you're feeding yourself that and you're focusing on things that are going to make you proud of you is you have an energy that's going to explode so that you have more that you can give to other people. You have more resources. So you got to look at it that way.
Oh my God, I love that. And once again, Sarah Ellen, I want to thank you for joining me.
My pleasure. It was all over the show, but you can talk about wellness forever. Wellness is very broad, so you're gonna ask me open questions. You're gonna get the rabbit hole.
And I love it. And you know what? Can we have you back on in the future?
If you're really nice to me, maybe.
Oh shit! Yo, what are you doing here, yo?
Doing a show.
Doing a show. There are no shows. What are you talking about? You doing a show? There's no shows. There's no shows. What do you mean? Where's there a show? There's a show now.
The streets.
Where are we right now?
We're in Bushwick. We're not going to give blocks, so we're not going to give locations.
Okay.
We're in Bushwick.
Bushwick, Brooklyn,
We're
right?
in Bushwick,
New York.
New York City, always. But now,
So, are you playing? Who's
playing? Rebelmatic's playing. Insecurity's playing today.
So you're playing?
Yeah.
Where?
In the streets. We got a
You're
pop-up.
literally playing in the streets.
Yeah, we got.
How fucking street is that? He's playing in the fucking
Yeah,
streets.
we got a pop-up show.
Playing in the streets, pop-up show.
Yeah.
Is this the first one?
No, this is about the 14th one.
Wait, what?
It's about our 14th one.
14th one what? What does that mean?
14th pop-up show. We did it for about 2.5 months straight. It got cold, and this is the first one for the new season.
New season.
Yeah, new season.
Oh, shit.
New season.
Oh, shit.
It's a new, it's a new season.
The new season. Wait, so if I come to a pop-up show in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and Rebelmatic is playing, what the fuck should I expect?
Energy, fun, unadulterated musicians just letting it all out.
Boom.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So have you guys released anything? I think you got a record.
Yeah.
I saw videos. I saw some stuff that's dope. A kid on a skateboard. And
Yeah. Blood and Gold. Our record is called Ghost in the Shadows.
Tell us a bit about that.
Ghost in the Shadows is out on Red Right Recordings. The name Ghost in the Shadows, my daughter came up with the title. The record's produced by Mark O'Connell from Taking Back Sunday.
Boom.
Yeah. Man, it's 10 songs, 24 minutes. It's honest, it's pre-gentrified New York. It sounds like James Brown and Moshpit.
Bam. I need that shit. I need it in my life right now.
So Lionel, we get a Red Right Recording.com.
Booyah. So how long you been doing this?
Music, most of my life.
And you also do some other kind of like hip hop shit. Do I remember you from like some raucous era type shit?
I mean, yeah, I was in a group that was produced by the Beatnuts. I was on MF Doom's album. I did a lot of
Under Creature.
Under Creature. Yeah, I got a lot of
man history. So you've been doing this shit for a motherfucking minute.
Most of my life.
Most of your life.
Most of my life. Most of my life. I started off a hardcore kid.
All right.
Hardcore shows, then started rhyming.
Okay.
Then kind of came back to playing in bands, but I still do both.
What do you play in the band?
I'm a vocalist.
Why'd you choose that?
It's the easiest. That's what I'm.
Ease of use.
Yeah,
ease of fucking use.
It's voice.
But see, I can't balance the you saying, oh, it's the easy way out with you fucking on your second season of pop-up shows at a time when no one's even doing shows.
Well, what people are doing is like, I'm from a history, and I was from a history of getting things done.
All right.
You know.
What does that mean?
I was raised like do it yourself, and like you don't wait for people. You put your peanuts together. Okay. You got like-minded people, and you say, "Hey, do it." It's like there's no shows doing this. We can do. I don't care what you can't do. I know what I can do. I don't really have the barometer of what people say. You can or can't do. We just do what we do.
I like that. Yeah. That's fucking dope right there.
Yeah.
If I want to like learn more, if I want to stalk you on the motherfucking computer on Instagram, how can I do that?
Don't stalk me, bro.
I'm stalking you.
Rebelmatic, NYC, everything. That's the Instagram. That's the band. My solo one is Creaturenomics, but everything's there. I mean, I wrote books. I sold music independently for years. I lived off of music by selling it. So I'm used to doing stuff myself.
Oh, I love
you know what I mean? Like I'm not a stranger to it. I'm like, no venues there. We play. No one puts your record out. You put it out yourself.
Final piece of advice.
Don't wait for people to do something. Don't wait for someone to do something. Don't wait for someone to do something for you can do for yourself.
Read that twice.
Peace. Thank you, Chaka. I appreciate you. Hey, but on a side note, one of my first hardcore shows was seeing Sick of It All with his band opening for them. That was one of my first hardcore shows.
Very nice.
I was 15 going on 16.
I love that.
That's...
All right, y'all.
Wanna win.